It's
So
it's
if I go to your Facebook,
Good evening and welcome. My name is Cal Harris, and this is my story. Throughout season 1 and all the future episodes, you will see never before published photos, home videos, and private insight into the lives of my wife, Michele, myself, and our children, as well as never before behind the scenes look at the investigation, prosecution, incarceration, and how all of this affected my kids and my life over a 15-year period. Tonight's episode is From the Beginning. On the evening of September 11th, 2001, my wife Michele ends her shift at a local tavern around 9 p.m. She stays after and has a few drinks at the bar with some friends and coworkers. She then goes to her boyfriend's apartment until approximately 11 p.m. When she leaves, and according to him, she is heading home to our house. However, the next morning, Michele does not come home and is never seen again. Since I am the husband and we are in the middle of a divorce, I become a suspect. But as you will see throughout these episodes, for the next 15 years, I become a suspect like no other. Michele and I did not know each other growing up, but we did live in neighboring counties in the southern part of upstate New York, right on the border of Pennsylvania. Just right of center on the map, you will see Broome County in yellow, and just to the left, you will see Tioga County in green. At the time Michele and I met, I was in business with my father and older brother. We owned and operated a small chain of new vehicle automobile dealerships in the southern tier and central New York. Michele worked at one of the dealerships when we met in 1986. At the time, she was 21 and I was 25. We immediately hit it off. She was very attractive, outgoing, a great sense of humor, and we shared many of the same interests. We traveled and did a lot of fun things together. We got married 4 years later at a family-owned piece of property on August 25th, 1990. A property known as Empire Lake in Spencer, New York, also in Tioga County. This was a very special piece of property that my family purchased in 1988, 2 years after Michele and I met and started dating. It was a private lake surrounded by 250 acres of pristine forest and woodland. It was an outdoorsman's paradise. In the woods, deer, black bear, coyotes, and wild turkey, as well as all kinds of small game. Geese and ducks would fly in to rest during the fall on their way south, and in the spring on their way north. Some would stay and raise their young. In the air, bald eagles, osprey, hawks, and horned owls would build their nests around the lake. In the water, some of the best freshwater fishing in upstate New York. Trophy northern pike and largemouth bass, as well as sunfish, walleye, and perch. These fish on the wall, my oldest son Taylor caught. I want to go back to this photo for a minute. My son Taylor found this northern pike floating in the water not far offshore at the same time that this bald eagle was flying overhead. Around this northern pike in the water were white feathers that surrounded this northern pike. It was clear that the bald eagle had attacked this fish, killed it, and clearly picked it clean. Now, this fish here is about the same size as this fish on the wall that my son caught. Now, anybody who's had the pleasure of catching a northern pike of this size knows what a ferocious fighter they are. The fact that this bald eagle attacked this northern pike and was able to kill it and eat it just shows how powerful these magnificent birds really are. There was constant activity on the lake all day long and all evening. Birds, coyotes, fish jumping in the lake. The evenings that we would spend on the back deck, you would hear nonstop activity all day long, all night, and all year round. It was a special place. Our wedding day was beautiful. The weather was perfect, and the setting was spectacular. Michele chose a country-style wedding and wedding dress. It was a good fit for the occasion. She looked all the part of a country bride. This was a small wedding for just family and close friends. It was a beautiful day. We got really lucky with the weather. Two years later, we built a new home on the west side of the lake. We built it up on top of the hill and cleared the trees down to the lake so that we could have a view. And it was a spectacular view. We moved in November of 1992. You can see in the scale in this picture, if you look in the right-hand corner, you will see our two dogs, a black lab, Ace, and a yellow lab, Chamois. Michele designed and decorated the interior of the house. She did a fantastic job. We both like the country style theme, and it certainly fit the setting. Michele made sure that there was a view of the lake from every room in the house. Two years after building the house, our first child was born, son Taylor, in 1994. Daughter Kayla in 95. Daughter Jenna in 97. And our youngest son Tanner in 99. For all you mothers out there, Tanner, the youngest one, was 10 pounds and 2 ounces when he was born. When he was delivered, the nurse cried out, "Oh my God!" Panicking, I yelled, "What?" She responded, "He's huge." I want you to notice Jenna in the blue and her duck sitting in her lap. Again, I want you to notice Jenna on the left with a white bunny outfit on. And I want you to notice the look on her face. That little devious little smile. Jenna is Michele's twin. This is the first day of school at St. Patrick's School in Owego, New York. This is where the kids went to school from pre-K to 5th grade. I'm showing you this picture because I'm going to refer to it later. And again, notice Jenna's got her duck on the left. This picture was taken in Taconic Falls in Ithaca, New York, which was just north of our home, about 20 minutes. This is my son Taylor's graduation picture. That's Taylor. And these photos he chose to have taken out at the lake for his senior pictures. This is Kayla's senior pictures. She also chose to have her senior pictures taken out at the lake. This is actually Jenna's senior prom. And this is our son Tanner's senior prom as well. At the time of Michele's disappearance in September of 2001, Taylor would have been 7, Kayla 6, Jenna 4, and Tanner 2. If you want to sum up Michele's personality in one photo, this would be it. This is Jenna, and this photo was taken about a week ago. Jenna will be 25 this year in May. And I want you to notice the duck hanging out of her sweatshirt. She still has it to this day. This photo is of Michele on the left. I don't know the exact date or how old Michele was in this photo, but I tried to pick a photo of Jenna that was close in age. And as you can see, they are identical twins. Jenna has all the mannerisms of Michele, her smile, her laugh, her personality. Jenna would have never known or remembered Michele's personality when Michele disappeared, when Jenna was 4 years old. So for me, this is purely genetic. And I believe Jenna was put on this earth to keep Michele's memory alive. And every day that I see Jenna, I see Michele. Now you're asking, why would Michele and I be living under the same roof while in the middle of a divorce? This was the result of a judge's ruling after Michele had asked for temporary custody of the house and kids. In her papers to the court, Michele had cited 2 incidents that she claimed took place between the 2 of us at our home. One incident was a verbal exchange, and the other was a physical exchange, where she claimed I had pushed her into our driveway. I pushed her in our driveway, and she slipped and fell on some ice and cut her hand. The judge did not believe her version of events and ordered that we both remain in the home together and share joint responsibility of the kids until the divorce was finalized. This affidavit of Michele's to the court becomes important later on regarding the cut on her hand, and because the attorney she gave this information to was Betty Keene, the wife of District Attorney Gerald Keene, who was prosecuting my case at the time. Betty Keene is on the right in this photo. Gerald Keene is to her left, and those are their 2 sons. This is just one of the many conflicts of interest that took place during my case. Now, despite Gerald Keene's attempts to spin our divorce, it was an amicable divorce. There were no custody issues with the kids. In fact, Michele had just put a down payment on a house in the village of Owego, also in Tioga County, about 1 mile from my office at work. She borrowed $5,000 from her boyfriend, Brian Early, and another $5,000 from her father. Brian Early was a young man in his early 20s from Philadelphia. He met Michele while he was up here deer hunting at his uncle's cabin just over the border in PA. After Michele worked her shifts at Lefty's Bar and Grill in Waverly, New York, she would often go out to the other bars in the area. It was at one of these bars she met Brian. Michele would have been 35 at the time. Apparently, Brian fell head over heels in love with Michele. So much so, he left his family, girlfriend, and good-paying job with the city of Philadelphia to move up here by himself and rent an apartment. He had no job no friends, and no family. He testified that he believed he would be moving into the new home Michele had just made a down payment on, and they would be living together. And at some point, they would get married. However, we know from the New York State Police, Troop C, we know from their investigation, this was clearly not Michele's intentions. From the investigation, we know that while Brian Early was living up here alone, to be with Michele, Michele had numerous other men in her life. One of which was the manager at Lefty's Bar and Grill, who was a cocaine dealer. He also had slammed his previous girlfriend's head against a brick wall, cracking her skull. Another young man, a high school senior, who was working for me as a lot attendant at one of the dealerships. And these two men, Stacy Stewart and Chris Thomason. These two men are a particular interest because they were temporarily up from Texas, working in Waverly, not far from Lefty's Bar and Grill. They were setting up a new facility for the parent company, Nucor Steel. Initially, these two men were living in a local motel. But later, Stacy Stewart bought a hunting cabin out in the middle of the woods, not far from the village of Waverly. Both men were also in their early 20s and would frequent Lefty's Bar and Grill. Stacy Stewart was so taken with Michele that he would wait until one of her tables was open to sit down and have dinner. He would then leave her a $100 tip for a $15 meal. Shortly after Michele's disappearance and the ensuing investigation by New York State Police Troop C, both men abruptly leave town and head back to Texas, where they're from. On their way out of town, Stacy Stewart breaks into a woman's home, a woman that he knows, and steals her jewelry along with some other personal items. This is notable because Michele was carrying around a small velvet Crown Royal bag with all her jewelry in it. She was trying to pawn this jewelry off. The items included her wedding ring, Rolex watch, tennis bracelet, and other necklaces and earrings. She had gotten several estimates from the local pawn shops that valued these items at between $12,000 and $15,000. This bag of jewelry is missing and has never been found. Also, Stacy Stewart walked away from his hunting cabin, never making a mortgage payment to the bank, and letting the property get repossessed. Finally, regarding the divorce, Gerald Keene, the district attorney prosecuting my case, his spin as to my motive to kill Michele was that my fear is I would lose half of my ownership in the family business, and that it would also devastate my father and brother's interest as well. This was a blatant lie, and he knew it. The marital law in New York regarding this issue is called equitable distribution, meaning that any property owned by the parties prior to the marriage is not owned equally after the marriage. I had acquired my ownership in the family business prior to Michele and I getting married. I made a generous offer to Michele, the majority of which was maintenance for our kids. But at the time of her disappearance, I hadn't heard back as to whether she would accept this offer or negotiate further. Either way, we were close to reaching an agreement. Witnesses testified to this fact. Despite Gerald Keene's lies, money was not an issue for motive. Now, let me be clear. I also was having an affair with another woman. At the time of our marriage, the time that our marriage was falling apart, and I take full responsibility for my actions and my share of the blame. I'm not getting into any details as to why the marriage crumbled. One, because Michele is not here to tell her side of the story. And two, I'm certainly not going to point fingers at anyone, Michele or anyone else, under the circumstances. I also want to make clear the affairs were not the result of why the marriage failed. They were simply a product of it. This ends episode 1 for now. I'm willing to take answers to questions that you may have. Know that there will be numerous episodes going forward detailing all aspects of this story, including the investigation, prosecution, trials, appeals, incarceration, and how this 15-year saga affected the lives of me and my kids. Thank you for watching, and I'll take some questions now.